Hello and welcome to our first practical video in the CCNA Packet Tracer video course. Okay, so in this video we're going to have a look at basic device configuration and CLI navigation. So firstly, if you go to github.com/learn-skillnuggets/CCNA-packet-tracer. The link will be in the description. You will see the public repository for this particular course. Now let's jump onto module 1, network fundamentals, and go into lab 1, and we can download all the files that we want to use. So we have our packet tracer file here that we can download for the actual lab. So let's click on the packet tracer and then let's click on download raw file, and you see that downloads it there. Let's go back and let's have a look at the lab guide document, and let's again download the raw file. That's brilliant. So if you want the lab topology, the PDF that shows all the connections, etc., then that's absolutely fine and dandy. Okay, but we don't really need that, but if you want it, it's fine. What we do only need is the packet tracer file and the readme with, the lab guide with your instructions. So let's have a little look, and let's go into my downloads. All right, let's open up the lab guide, and we'll open up the packet tracer lab as well. Okay, should take a few moments for all these to open up. Okay, so we can see that we have the actual lab has now opened up, which is absolutely fantastic. And let's have a look at the actual lab guide as well. I'll drag this across to this screen as well. So the lab guide, what do we have in here? We have a copy of the topology, and we have the student's instructions. Okay, so let's get cracking. So the first thing is to connect router 1 via the console cable. This is with the engineer's laptop. Enter the exec mode. Okay, enter the privileged exec, go into global config mode, enter an interface configuration, and basically return using the end command. All right, so let's have a little look and see. So we have our laptop here, so we need to connect via the console. So if you go into the cables at the bottom, this little blue one here, this is the console cable. So if you click on the laptop and choose the RS232 connection, and then connect to the router and connect to console. Okay, so we now have a console connection. This is the sort of thing that you'll be doing in real life with real equipment. Okay, so let's open up the laptop and let's go to the terminal. Okay, so you need to remember that the bits per second should be 9600, the data bits should be 8, the parity is none, and the stop bits is 1. As long as they're correct, click OK. And now you can see that we are now in the actual configuration. All right, so click return to get started. Now what it's saying is that it wants us to go into each particular mode. Now we can see we're in user exec mode here. So if we quickly do a question mark, we can see we don't have an awful lot of options. We can disable to log out, we can disconnect, you go into enable to go into privilege commands. You can exit, log out, you can run some basic pings, you can SSH into, from one device to another if you've got your IP and SSH settings done. There's very few that not much you can do in this. Let's have a look at the show command, so show with the question mark. You can see some things, you can see the history, you can see the interfaces, IP information, but you can't see the running config generally. So let's do show run. No, you can't see the running config at all in this particular mode of operation. So let's go into your privileged exec mode, so enable. Okay, so you notice here how the characters changed from the greater than sign to the hash symbol. I think in America you call that a pound. which is a bit weird because in the UK, a pound is actually a completely different command. You know, a different symbol is the pound, you know, for our currency. But anyway, I digress. So let's have a look now, do a question mark here. Now we can see we have a lot more options here. Okay, absolutely loads of them. You can't make really any configurations apart from things like the clock, but you have full show commands now. So let's do show and question mark. And if you see here that you've got show running configuration, which we didn't have in the previous user exec mode. Okay, so it's now saying, if we have a little look, jump into configuration mode. So let's go into configure terminal. Now, of course, you can just type CompT or CO, you know, and that will get you in as well. Okay, so now we're in configuration mode. Now this is basically where all your commands, all your configurations are done. Now we know that you've already been studying your CCNA. You've been doing that with whichever provider that you're going with. Again, you can see, you know, this is just to get a little bit of hands-on practice if you don't have access to, you know, any actual labs. Okay, so it's asked us to go into an interface just to see what happens. So type in interface GigabitEthernet 0/1, and you notice how the configuration here has changed from config, which just shows that we're in configuration mode, to config-inf for interface. So we now know that we're in interface configuration. And let's end out of that. All right, so we've ended out and we are back at privileged exec mode. All right, fantastic. So let's see what it wants us to do. So to configure router 1, so configure the host name as R1, configure the message of the day banner. Now I'm going to just copy this for speed purposes, and I will paste that in afterwards. Okay, configure enable secret of class. All right, so let's have a little look and let's do the first couple of bits. So again, we know we need to go into configuration mode. So when we typed it out completely before, now I'm just going to do CompT, and now hostname. And you notice I'm using the tab, which is great. So hostnames R1, and you'll notice that the actual hostname, which is currently set to router, will change instantly here to router 1. So that's fantastic. Okay, so we've done that. Brilliant. What else does it want us to do? Because my memory is terrible. Configure message of the day. All right, so message of the day. So to configure a message of the day is MOTD. And if you do a question mark, it's banner MOTD. And if you do a question mark, you can see that you can now put in what you want. Now, where it says banner text C is the delimiting character that you want to use. In our case, it's going to be, let's paste that in. It's going to be the quotations. All right, so there we go. So that's the banner message of the day actually done. Fantastic. Okay, what it wants us to do now is to configure an enable secret, you know, of class. So let's try that. So enable secret, and do a question mark. Now this tells you whether you want it to be plain text, whether you want to be encrypted, or, you know, so we're just going to leave it as it is. The configuration will encrypt it itself, and we will see that shortly when we do a show running configuration. So we've done the enable secret, which is absolutely fantastic. Okay, so what we need to do now is to go on to our line console, which is the console that we're currently connected to. Tell it it requires a login, enable login synchronous, and set the password as Cisco. So let's try that. Line console 0, login. Okay, and then password Cisco, and login synchronous. So the login synchronous, that just stops you from getting all the console outputs while you're actually using the console. Sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming if you're connected to the console and you're getting tons and tons of messages pop up as you're moving along. Okay, so we've now done that. Okay, so configure the VTY lines, exactly the same. So the VTY lines are the lines that you connect to when you're connecting via an IP address. So we need to get out of the console configuration. So line VTY04 and login. And what we're going to do now is password is Cisco. All right, great stuff. And I believe it didn't require anything else. All right, wonderful. Now it wants us to configure GigabitEthernet 0/0, which is the link. I think it's the link back to there. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Actually, it says in the description there. It's the WAN link to router 2. No, sorry, it's the LAN link to switch 1. Okay, that's fine. Let's configure that. 192.168.10.1. Okay, so let's do that. So exit intg 0/0, address 192.168.10.1, and the subnet mask is /24, so it's 255.255.255.0. okay, and we're going to no shut it because on the routers the ports are shut down by default. All right, and what description does it want us to put in there? It wants the description as LAN connection to SW1, which I'm going to copy out. That's not a problem. So description and paste that in. Fantastic. Okay, so that is that interface done. Now, what interface does it want doing now? It wants GigabitEthernet 01, which is the link to R2. I'm just going to copy that out as well shortly. Okay, so it's 10.0.0.1 and it's a /30. Okay, so interface, let's get out of this rather. INT GI 0/1. Okay, so IP address 10.0.0.1 and it's a /30 subnet mask. So it's 255.255.255.252. Okay, fantastic. And we have the description already copied. So the description is going to be our WAN link to R2. And then we will no shut this again. Alrighty, okay, so we have that done. Is there anything else that he wants us to do for this? Oh, configure a static route to reach 192.168.20.0/24 via 10.0.0.2. Okay, let's have a look and get that done. So exit, so we do IP route, and it's going to be 192.168.20.0 and subnet mask 255.255.255.0, and the next hop's going to be 10.0.0.2. Brilliant. Okay, now it's asking us to create a user now. So user of Skill Nuggets, which is a shameless plug on my behalf, you know, because you know, I have a Skill Nuggets website, and of course my YouTube channel is at Skill Nuggets. So user is YouTube, secret is Skill Nuggets. Okay, so let's have a look at that. Okay, so let's do username. So username YouTube, secret is Skill Nuggets. All right, fantastic. And the last was to save it to NVRAM. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You know, you can just do a do WR if you want to, but that of course is not the Cisco, CCNA way. But you can, in real life, you'd probably do that if you're still in configuration mode. All the privileged exec commands that you can actually do in configuration mode, as long as you put the do before it. So let's end this. Okay, so you can do a WR again in privileged exec mode. Yeah, that will work, but not Cisco way. So copy, run in configuration, startup config. That is the official way of doing it. All right, and that is done. So let's have a look at the actual configuration now and see what has changed, or see what we have done. So show running config. Okay, so we can see here that we have our host name has changed. We can see the enable secret. Now, do you remember we didn't choose any particular encryption type, but it's already encrypted it. This is set to class, but this is what happens when it puts the MD5 hash onto it. All right, so let's see what else we have here. Okay, so we have the username, which is YouTube. The secret, again, we didn't choose anything, so automatically set it as an MD5 hash or class 5, and there is our password, which we set as skill nuggets. Okay, what else do we have here? Okay, so interface GigabitEthernet 0/0. We can see the description is there, the IP address. GigabitEthernet 01. We have our description and the IP address. That's absolutely fantabulous. Okay, if we scroll down, is there anything else that we need to be interested in? We have our static root. That's great. We have our banner, message of the day, which is fantastic. Our line console, we have our password, login synchronous, and it requires a login. And our VTY line, it has the password of Cisco again, and is set to login. So that is the first device that we need to actually do. So what we'll do, we'll carry on shortly and we'll configure quickly R2 and then the switches, and then we'll start running the various configuration verification commands. Okay, so I've already gone along and connected my laptop via the console cable to router 2, and I've already configured router 2 with everything that's needed. The whole idea is you've already done now, followed along when we've configured router 1. You just need to be using the same commands and follow the instructions here. Show run, and we can see that we have the host name, the enable password, the username and password for the user. We can see that we have the interfaces all connected up. Well, not connected, yeah, they're connected up, but I mean they're configured. We can see we have our static root, and we can see we have our banner and the line console, and the VTY lines are configured. So what we're going to do, if you just pause the video and get through and configure that yourself, and then what we'll do, we'll come back as soon as you've done that, and we will start configuring switch 1. Okay, so hopefully you've got that configured absolutely fine. We'll run our verifications afterwards. As you can see, I have the console cable connected now to switch 1. Here's a little secret that I shouldn't have told you. I've not locked these down this lab, so if you just want to double click on the actual device itself, you can, but for authenticity's sake, we're using the actual connection on the laptop. So let's connect into that. So the terminal, make sure that the settings are correct, and let's log in. Okay, so we are in the actual switch. Fantastic. Let's bring up our instructions here for switch 1. We'll go through that, and then we'll follow the same process, whereas you can go away and you can do switch 2 yourself. Okay, so Right, let's have a look. So it wants us to configure the host name as SW1, the enable secret as class, configure the console password as Cisco, with a login, VTY lines with Cisco, configure the VLAN interface, configure the default gateway, username and password, all that good stuff. Wonderful. Okay, for some reason when I wrote this out I didn't put a banner message of the day in there. By all means go ahead and stick that in, you know, copy it from what we put on router 1 if you want to put the banner message of the day on. To be fair, a bit of oversight, I should have actually put that into the guide, but I had totally forgotten. But you've already done that now, so you know how it's done. So if you're ever asked to do it or you need to do it again, you know how to do that. So we're on the switch, and as you can see, first login, we're in user exec mode. So go to enable, and we are now in privileged exec mode. And let's go into configuration mode. So configure terminal or conf t in this case. Okay, so host name. So let's do host name, and it's going to be SW1. And that's again exactly the same on the switch. We can see that it's changed instantly. So enable secret. So enable secret is again the same as before, class. Wonderful. Okay, so it wants us to configure the VTY lines. So let's do VTY. Oopsie daisy. Line VTY 0/4. Okay, so we're going to put the password as Cisco. Password is Cisco. And we're going to do a login. All right, fantastic. Okay, if you want to do the login synchronous as well, you can do. Again, I didn't put that on the guide. I should really have done that. So login. Actually, to be fair, I don't think there's a command for that. Oh no, it's not actually for the switch. Okay, my bad. Okay, so it's asking us now to set up our VLAN 1 interface. So let's do interface VLAN 1. Now remember, VLAN, the actual VLAN itself is enabled by default. So we don't have to go in there and create the VLAN. What we're doing is creating the SVI or switch virtual interface on here, which is interface VLAN 1. Okay, so it's going to be IP address, and it's going to be 192.168.10.2/24 mask 255.255.255.0. Okay, and you need to, when you're dealing with switch virtual interfaces, you need to ensure that you enable them, because like a router interface, they're shut down by default. So no shut. Okay, so that's now come up. So what it wants us to do now is again put in the username and password. So user of YouTube, secret of skill nuggets. Of course, you can use whatever you actually like. You don't have to use what I've got here, but it's in the instructions, and a good network engineer follows the instructions. Let's get out of that. And I'm going to paste that in there. Username secret. User YouTube secret is skill nuggets. Okay, that's absolutely fine and dandy. Let me double check that. Change that off. Okay, that's great, because there was a space there. Got to be careful with that. If you leave a space, it will actually put that into the actual password as well. And now it wants us to save the configuration. So in there. And it's going to be copy running config startup config. Yes. All right. Okay. So again, let's have a little look and see where we're up to. So show running config. Again, we have the host name, the enable secret, the username, which again is hashed. Of course, the enable secret is also hashed, even though we didn't specify it for any of them. But because we call it secret instead of password, it automatically hashes it for us, which is great. Okay, so we've got all the interfaces on the switch, blah, 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 blah. All right, so we have interface VLAN 1, IP address 192.168.10.2. That's great. Line console. Did we set the line console? No, I should have set the line console actually. I will set that now. I missed that step. Bit naughty of me. And the VTY line. Okay, so let's go conf t, line console 0, password Cisco, log in, and just for simplicity, there you go. I just do a WR on that. All right, so that is switch 1 is configured. Absolutely fine. If you want to then now, pause the video and go along and configure switch 2, and then we'll run our verification commands. And of course we also need to put in the default gateway. See, you need to follow instructions. If you don't follow instructions, then we don't get things done. So let's pop in the default gateway, and IP default gateway is going to be 192.168.10.1. okay, all righty. Okay, so again, let's do a show run. Everything should now be as it should be. So we have hostname, secret, username, password, which is fine. We have interface VLAN 1. We have our IP default gateway now. Our line console 0 and our VTY lines are configured. Excellent stuff. All right, so if you toodle pip and go and do switch 2, and then shortly we will then come back and we will do some verification commands. Okay, I hope you managed to get that configured fine. Switch 2. Let me log into switch 2 and have a little look. So terminal, because I've already done it, so let's have a gander. Firstly, let's exit out, because it does remember your previous console sessions. Now when I try to log in, it's asking me for the password. Cisco. All right, so enable mode, ask for the password for that. Brilliant, it's exactly what we expect to see. Show running config. Okay, so we can see the host name, enable secret, username and password. Scroll on down. Oh, see, that's just as well. I haven't even configured VLAN 1. There's me being all high and mighty. Oh, look, well, I've already done it. I've not even configured it. All right, I'll have to configure that. Okay, so interface VLAN 1. So conf t interface VLAN 1 IP address 19. Actually, what's the default gateway? Yep, 192.168.20.2 255.255.255.0. That would have been embarrassing, wouldn't it, if we come to do some verifications and they didn't actually work. All right, so let's just write that. So WR. All right, so if we look at our guide now for our verifications on our daisy, on R1, use the show IP interface brief to verify interface status. R1, use show running config to verify your configuration. Verify the routing table to see if we have a route. Okay, that's fine. So let's have a look at that. All right, so let's bring R1 up, CLI, and password is Cisco because we've already said it. Enable, and password is class. Okay, so we've already done the show running config earlier on, so we could see the changes that we'd actually put in. Okay, fantastic. So wants us to do a show IP interface brief to have a look at the interfaces. Well, we can see our GigabitEthernet. It has the IP address. It's manually set rather than DHCP, and the status is up and the protocol is up. GigabitEthernet 01 rather, it's got its IP address, it's up and up. Okay, now it's asked us to have a look at the route, so show IP route. All right, so we can see we have the static root is applied there, 192.168.20.0/24 via 10.0.0.2. Okay, and we can see that the network is actually connected up here. Brilliant stuff. Okay, so it looks like everything's fine on there. Now what it's asking for, R1 ping R2's interface, so let's try that. So this is going to be over the WAN link, so ping, and let's do a 10.0.0.2. okay, there you go, that's successful. So we've successfully pinged across. Okay, and what's it asking us now? Let's ping the let's ping the interface that on R2 that goes towards the switch. Don't forget we have the static root there, so it should work fine. So let's do a ping 192.168.20.1. there you go. Oh, that's working fine. Okay, and now it's asking us to ping PC3 and PC4. So where's the IP address? PC3 is .10, it's 20.10 and 20.20. okay, that is for 3 and 4, isn't it? Yep. All right, so ping 192.168.20.10. waiting for that to go through. Yep, that's gone through fine. And let's do 20. That's also should also go through fine. Yep, that's great. And what it's asking us now is from PC1, which is here, to try and ping both of these devices. All right, let's have a little look and see if we can do that. Let's go into desktop, let's go into command prompt, and let's do a ping 192.168.20.10. there you go, that's working fine. And let's do 20.20, and that is also working fine and dandy. And lastly, telnet from router 1 to router 2. okay, so let's jump onto router 1 and let's do telnet, and it's going to be 10.0.0.2. okay, our password is Cisco. As you can see, we have now telnetted in because we've got the R2 prompt here. Fantastic. Okay, so basically what we've done so far is, of course, we've completed the lab now, but what we've done, we've configured router 1 with the with the 10.0.0.0/30 network, and router 2 we've got a static route from router 1 to the entire subnet here, which goes to router 2, and we got a static route on router 2 that goes to routers 1 and all this entire subnet, which is fantastic. We have successfully managed to ping from the 192.168.10.10 PC at the bottom all the way through the network to the 192.168.20 network as well. So I believe we have covered this off quite nicely. I've hoped you've been able to configure router 2 and switch 2 absolutely fine on your own. If not, then rewatch the configurations that I've done, and obviously the full configurations on the bits I've had to miss out and had to go back again and fix because I didn't read the instructions properly. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this series in this video, and in the next we are going to jump into some more fine goodness. Thank you very much for your time. Hope you've enjoyed it. See you in the next video.